Hi, I'm Dr. Bertice Berry, and I need to tell you a story. I grew up with all kinds of sayings. My mother had sayings for every single thing you could imagine. She had a saying, but she'd say things like, "If I do Skippy," and we'd always be like, "Who is Skippy?" And what does Skippy do? And she'd say things like, "Oh, you're gonna find out fat meat is greasy," to which I would add, "And it pops." She had sayings that other people had, but then she had sayings that I had never heard and I didn't understand. And she'd say things like, "I grew up next to the whipping post." And I grew up next to the whipping post. We were like, "What is she talking about? What is a whipping post? What is she talking about?" She grew up on a farm. It was not until she passed away and left her journals to me that I found out that when she was around 12 years old, her mother came and got her and took her to live with her and to work. She took her out of school. She had to go to work. And my mother experienced levels of horror that are hard to imagine. And she left those writings for me for after she was gone. She didn't want to deal with them while she was here. But I collect memorabilia from the period of enslavement. And in my collecting, I found something that came from after that period, but it was very, very personal to me. It's a postcard, and it's from Dover, Delaware. And you can see the whipping post, Dover, Delaware. And this would be the whipping post that my mother grew up near. And so those little boys who were there watching because their fathers brought them was not the only child that saw these whippings. My mother saw them too. On the back of this postcard, it says 1925. And so not only did she grow up next to the whipping post, folks thought it was so something that they did something, so much of something, that they put it on postcards and sent it out to people. My mother was brutalized by every house she worked in. I don't mean just, beaten. I mean brutalized. Her humanity, her dignity. And yet, and yet, I come from an indigenous tribe of people who barely exist, except for those of us who kind of know our DNA, know that that's a part of us too. The so called Delaware Indians, the Lenape people. I love when people say to me, "But what about the Indians? I mean, your people, you get to talk about it, but what about them? What about them? I am them too." And we don't even get to say that out loud because we're so busy dealing with the side you can see. This history that lies within me makes me want to find the hallelujah that would come from the depths of my mother's soul whenever she saw us doing anything that could produce joy. She'd say, "Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah." And we'd say, "What are you talking about, Mom?" She'd say, "Y'all don't know Skippy, but you gonna find out that fat meat is greasy." When folks say to me or in my presence, "It's worse than it's ever been," you don't know Skippy. I love you, and I know we're going to get there because this same woman who grew up next to the whipping post would whip us. And years later, she begged for forgiveness and said, "I'm so sorry. I didn't know what I was doing. I did what was done to me. And I wish I had known better, but I do now. And all I can leave is love. I love you.